Okay, I know that by now the topic of Lightyear is pretty much obsolete, especially with Toy Story 5 and everything. But at the same time, I just can't help but look back on this movie sometimes and marvel at just how badly they screwed it up when it should have been the easiest slam dunk since Toy Story 3. Now, around the time it was released, I made a video dedicated to explaining all the reasons I chose not to watch the movie, and you can find a link in the description in case you'd like to see it, as I myself find it a rather funny watch in retrospect, and I've held myself to that. I have not and will never watch this movie. But based off some of the things I've heard about it, I just can't believe that a group of people could get something so simple so wrong. Seriously, they couldn't have messed this up anymore if they tried. And today, I'd specifically like to go over only a few of the ways they completely messed it up. And there will not be spoilers for this movie ahead, as I have not seen it and don't care to know any important plot details, thus I can't give anything away. Though there may be minor ones for the Toy Story series, so you might just want to keep that in mind. Alright, so to start off with something simple, as well as something I had discussed in my original Lightyear video, one decision that I believe doomed this movie more than people realized was the decision not to let Tim Allen and Andrew Stanton reprise their roles as Buzz Lightyear and Zurg respectively. Now I know that their rationale for this was that the toys had a different voice from the characters in the movie, but here's the thing. In Toy Story 2, when Woody is watching Woody's Roundup, where his toy originated from, the character on the show has the exact same voice as him. They're both voiced by Tom Hanks, and moreover, he makes no attempt to make his voice sound different between the two. And this extends to the others as well. Joan Cusack and Kelsey Grammer both also voice their characters on the show as well as the toys. And out of the three, only Grammer makes an effort for the two to sound different. And that's for the plot reason of showing how different the toy's personality is from the character on the show. So if anything, this shows that Toy Story has a history of toys having the same voice as the characters they originated from, not a different one. And on top of that, the actors are simply iconic in their roles. You can feel a care, a passion for them in the way they voice them. In other words, you can tell that these aren't just any other roles for the actors, but something they're genuinely attached to and in their own ways have made their own. And I'm not saying their replacements are talentless or didn't take it seriously, but that they could never have the same care and attachment to the characters. Chris Evans could love the character and perform him with all the respect he had, but he was just never going to be Tim Allen, nor could he ever feel for the character what Allen feels. Because one thing that's important to remember here is, back when the first movie came out, nobody knew if it would even make a dime, and Tom Hanks and Tim Allen put in their all anyway. They simply are part of the reason the characters have become so beloved. So if you strip that aspect away from them, then they simply aren't Woody and Buzz Lightyear anymore. Which is kind of a problem when you're claiming this to be the movie that Buzz Lightyear originated from. And on that topic, you don't know how many people I've heard say in reference to Lightyear that, quote, there is no way that this is the movie Andy saw. And I think that's what leads to an even bigger issue here, that it has no respect for the source material. They only tolerate what has to be a given, such as Buzz himself, Star Command, and Zurg, and then just use the rest of the movie to do whatever they want. And as I've gone on at length about in other videos, that is a chief sign of a sequel, prequel, or spin-off that's doomed to fail. A lack of respect, understanding, or interest in its own predecessor. Because as many others have stated, this movie should have been a light, cheesy, nostalgic 90s sci-fi throwback made in the style that the Toy Story movies implied that it was. Because, by all accounts, the movie was simply a fun sci-fi kids movie about the cool adventures of Buzz Lightyear defeating the evil Emperor Zurg. That is the impression anybody would get from watching the Toy Story movies. And let me just say, do you know how easy it would have been to make a movie like that? But instead they go for a dark, adventureless tone, take too many risks, and by most accounts feels like something that was firmly made in the 2020s as opposed to the mid-90s. And it's like they already had everything they needed, but they weren't interested in using any of it. But it gets even worse. Because as some people may have forgotten, Toy Story 2 opens with a pretty elaborate sequence depicting the Buzz Lightyear video game, which in turn was obviously based on the Buzz Lightyear movie. And not only are the characters voiced by Andrew Stanton and Tim Allen, but it pretty much tells you everything you would ever need to know about the dynamic between the two, as well as the tone such a movie would have. My point here is, all the creators had to do was write a story based on the video game shown in the movie, and they would have had a surefire hit on their hands. It was so simple, and they still screwed it up in more ways than I thought possible. I'm sorry, but here's the thing. I've written books. I've told very elaborate stories. I know what it feels like to have to come up with an interesting concept that hasn't already been tried, true, used, and cliched into oblivion. It can be really hard to be creative in an age where every idea is either already taken or was used poorly but can't be reused because of copyright problems. So to see these writers have every single advantage a writer could possibly have and turn it into something so unrecognizable and devoid of respect that the fandom so thoroughly rejects it infuriates the heck out of me. I mean, they practically had a story gift wrapped for them and guaranteed to succeed, and they threw it all out the window, arrogantly believing that they could do it better. I hate to say it, but I honestly don't know how the people who worked on this movie still have a job for messing up something that should have been so simple. And on that topic, Tim Allen was even quoted as saying that he didn't understand why nobody who worked on the Toy Story series worked on this movie either, and I totally agree with him on that, because these people they did get clearly had no idea what they were doing and had no interest in respecting the source material. But again, it was so easy to avoid this. If they had just made the movie they should have, and what the fans wanted and expected, then they could have easily made a whole spin-off franchise out of it. But instead, they wanted to make, well, whatever the heck it is Lightyear turned out to be, and the fans responded in kind. Like I said, I was out once Tim Allen was recast, but now I'm even more glad I never had any interest in seeing this movie. Seriously, I don't claim to be an expert on storytelling, but this movie breaks almost every single rule I personally know about writing. I just don't know what on earth the writers were thinking here. I don't get it. Because the thing is, there's a time and place to take risks with your story, and a movie like Lightyear is most definitely not the place for that. Honestly, if they really had no interest in respecting what the Toy Story series had established, then they should have just made their own original science fiction movie instead of trying to make this unwanted and unneeded spin-off. Because as I've stressed many times before, respect for the source material is key for a sequel of any kind, and it's very clear that the people behind this movie, intentionally or not, simply didn't have it from the word go. Okay, I think that's everything I had to say on that. So now I'd like to hear your thoughts. Did you enjoy Lightyear, absolutely hate it, or opt to skip over it entirely like I did? And why do you feel about it the way that you do? Please let me know in the comments below. And like always, you don't have to agree with anything I said in this video. You are entitled to your own opinion just as much as I am or anybody else. And let me just also stress here that I understand that making a movie for a big company can be very stressful, and that I'm not trying to say that the people who worked on this are talentless, not hardworking, or aren't capable of respect. All I'm saying is that they didn't take their time in researching what a Buzz Lightyear movie should have looked like. And I'm not trying to imply any reason why they didn't do that. I'm not trying to promote any hate with this video. They could love Toy Story and Buzz Lightyear more than anything and messed up for any number of understandable reasons for all I know. And finally, thank you all for watching. I very much appreciate it. And I hope to see you all next time.